Now there are some things you do annually. And these are the ones that I know I'm going to look face to go as I go through them. But they were required, all right? You do the annual statistical report required by the General Assembly and report it to the Presbyterian Church USA by its deadline. I want to be really clear here. I don't pick the time of year that the annual report is due. I am given, every stated clerk is given the option of picking the final deadline within a few days of a deadline that we're given by the denomination. I usually pick 2 days before the deadline, because that means if you call me on the day that it's due and say, my computer's down, I say, you can give it to me and I can put it in. And I did that for 1 or 2 of you this year because I have those 2 extra days. But it's not that I'm being really cruel by putting it in early February, or I can't move it to March or April. I don't have that kind of option. All right? This is the denomination. This is when they want it. And it always starts about the same time Advent starts, and it always goes into the middle of February. It's bad timing for everybody when people are trying to get ready for holidays and so forth. But you need to anticipate that. You can put that together before Thanksgiving with your session, figure it out, and approve it at your November session meeting if you so want. All right? It's going to ask the same kinds of questions year after year after year. So you can do that, but you must file it. If you don't file it, I get Chris Valerius, who is the person in the denomination, starts texting me saying, you've got 43% of your congregations that have, literally, I get these almost every day, 43% that have filed. You need to get going. You're only up to 45% now. You need to get going, right? So that's one of your annual obligations. Your second obligation, and I sort of soft pedal this because people don't generally, I don't have a way to make this happen in the same way, is that there is a clerk's annual questionnaire that you are also asked to fill out from Louisville.
When does that happen?
It comes about the same time. It came towards the end of the year. I used to be, my first year as clerk, that I got a link that I then send to you. All right. That's no longer the case. What they are now doing is sending it directly to you from Louisville, to the congregation. So they are taking an email that either you or your pastor or somebody in that, or your secretary or somebody has, and sending it to them. And I don't see it anymore.
I don't remember getting that.
So I get the email saying it's gone out to the folks. But I have no way to, if you don't get the email, I have no link to give you anymore. So you should just be looking for it. And that's why in my write-up now, you no longer see me say, have you done your annual? I can't do anything if you have it for you. So that comes towards the end of the year as well. It's a different report than the annual statistical report, although they cover some of the same ground.
Is that the questionnaire about the session members, their addresses and phone numbers?
No, that's from the Presbyterian. I'm going to give you that in the second session to do.
Okay.
All right, so this is they switched it. They say they have the email addresses to send it to. If you're not getting it, if you don't see it come November, you should contact the Louisville again and say, do you really have my email address? Because, and they're sending it, the email address they have, by the way, is the one that you put when you go on and log on for your annual statistical report, and there's contact information. Somebody has put down an email address there. That's where they're supposedly sending it. So you should be getting it in that way. All right. The next thing is other presbytery paperwork that you need to do. All right. Wendy's mentioned one of them that I'm going to give you today because Gina said she hasn't gotten most of them back. Which is a list of who is currently on your session, all right, and some other basic information. But there's also compensation. You are required each year to look at your pastor's compensation. Okay? You do this, it's the one thing you don't approve budgets through a congregational meeting, but you do actually approve pastor's salary. Then you have to file it with us. It does no good that you voted it if you don't file it, because otherwise it doesn't get reported to Louisville. There are problems. You need to let us know what that is. And you get a form for doing that. That needs to be put in to the presbytery office, to Gene Kaiser each year. Or any other time you've made a change in pastor's compensation. All right. The necrology reports. The necrology report is a list of ruling elders who have passed away in your church, and it's read at a spring meeting in the presbytery during worship. So it's your obligation come beginning of January to get in the names for the year before of who has died of ruling elders in your congregation. They don't have to be currently serving ruling elders. They may be ruling elders who are ruling elders somewhere else and then transferred to your congregation as a ruling elder and have never served since. But if they were a ruling elder and they've been in your congregation, you put their names in for the necrology report. And what we need when you do that is the name of the person, the date of their death, and your congregation. Let me let you in on a little secret. More than half of our congregations begin with the word first. So if you are First Presbyterian, it doesn't tell me anything. You need to tell me First Presbyterian Church of Montgomery, right? Or same thing with South. South Presbyterian Church of Yonkers. It doesn't help me otherwise. There are too many people with the same name. So when you report your necrology, you need to tell us not just the name of your congregation, but the town in which you are, village or city in which you are in. All right?
Tell me the date again for the necrology.
The necrology, depending on when the presbytery meetings are, is usually the first presbytery meeting in the spring. That could be a January or February. So it's early January we usually ask you to get the names in. And if you've missed someone because you put it in December and they died towards the end of December, can you put it in the next year? Yes, you can put it in the next year.
I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah. We had a member of the church, a long-time member, and then he moved to North Carolina the last 4 years. And then when I was bringing up and write the name of it, he died, passed away.
Okay.
And one of the session members told me it was not necessary.
Did he transfer to another congregation?
Yeah.
So he probably is reported in the necrology in the other congregation. So you don't have to. You could. I mean, nobody here would stop you if you wanted to remember him together. But he probably is reported because all presbyteries are doing necrologies. So he's probably been reported in another presbytery.
Is there a form online that says?
For necrology? No. It's an email that I send out. You'll get an email that will say it's time to do your necrology. It needs to be in by this time. And then Gene Kaiser actually organizes it into a nice looking document. You will have the review, as you're having today, of the previous year's session minutes. And every 5 years, you will have a review of your roll book as well. This happens to be the first time I'm doing that, so we'll see how it goes today. But that's part of your annual obligations. You have to get out as well the presbytery meeting information to your session. Once a year, minimally, you should be telling people when the presbytery meetings are going to be. We put them up for the year. And you should be saying, folks, here's the upcoming presbytery meetings for 2018 are these dates. Who's going? And you may elect somebody to go for one time, or elect somebody to go for the whole year, or congregations do it in a whole series of different ways. But you should make sure that the session is aware of presbytery meetings coming up. That's important in a series of ways. It's important because there are things going on at the presbytery meeting that are worthwhile for your congregation, but it's also important because you may have things you want to bring to a presbytery meeting. We are in the period, for instance, where the next presbytery meeting will be the last one where overtures for this year can come. There may be something you really care about to get to the denomination. You need to know when the deadlines are in order to know how to do that. So you report that each year to your congregation and to your session both, so they're aware of that. Questions on annual, because we're going to go on to session minutes and take the kinds of questions about what do we put in for reports, etc. So the main things that you all are responsible for are to keep the rolls and registers of the congregation and keep the minutes. Those will be the things that take the most of your time. These other things come up once in a while. But you are the one who has to keep the rolls of baptized members, the rolls of active members, the rolls of affiliate members, the registries, the session minutes, the congregational meeting minutes, the minutes of joint meetings between your trustees and your sessions if you have a bicameral board, or your deacons and your sessions if you have a bicameral board in that way.